Meanwhile, the GOP majority is working to weaken gun restrictions with a new permitless carry law. And as our Capitol reporter, Forrest Saunders, tells us, that's been a priority for the governor.
5 years after Parkland, Florida state officials shared condolences online. The state ed department tweeting pictures of each of the 17 victims. The ed commissioner speaking to students at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. And at the Capitol,
it is 10:17 a.m.
Lawmakers taking a moment to reflect.
The Senate will observe a moment of silence to honor the memory of the 17 innocent lives lost.
Among them, Minority Leader Lauren Book and Senator Tina Polsky. The Democrats Tuesday frustrated that since the shooting, major gun reform seems to have stalled.
What we need to do is look at ourselves in the mirror and say, how do we actually affect change in this place?
Their party keeps pushing for expanded red flag laws, an assault weapons ban, or background checks for ammo.
We need to do more and we need to do better.
But the GOP-controlled legislature isn't interested. Many Republicans see those ideas as infringement on the Second Amendment. Instead, they're pushing to remove permit requirements to carry concealed weapons.
Why do we have it this year? It's very simple. It's the governor wanting to be to the right of every other candidate that he runs against for the Republican primary for president.
Permitless carry is a big goal for Governor Ron DeSantis, who hasn't announced any official plans for higher office, but has vowed to sign the bill before leaving.
5 years ago was one of the worst days that this state's ever had.
He didn't address it during a visit to Jacksonville, but did tout changes made since Parkland, like more money for school safety and removal of Broward Sheriff Scott Israel. Also, a promise to eliminate unanimous jury consent for the death penalty, prompted by the Parkland shooter getting a life sentence.
That was a bitter pill when that happened, and all I can say is we're doing something about it.
Republicans also planning to pass further school security upgrades this year, bolstering threat sharing, expanding the Guardian program to private campuses, and more. Though they're attaching it to that permitless carry bill, which Democrats continue to see as inappropriate, especially in light of Parkland. At the Capitol, Forrest Saunders, ABC Action News.
And our in-depth coverage of the Parkland shooting anniversary continues tonight. Coming up at 5:30, we're digging into the adoption of Florida's school guardianship program. It lets schools hire armed guards or allows staff members, including even teachers, to be armed while on campus. So is it working? We have the impact check, all new tonight at 5:30.
Now to the economy and what was supposed to be a promising inflation report today. Instead, it showed inflation rising again. Take a look here at this chart. This is where we were here in December, and now here we are right now. New consumer price index data shows us today that nationally prices rose by 0.5% in January. Overall prices in the U.S. up 6.4% in the past year. But let's kind of zoom in here a bit and look at inflation here in Tampa alone. Today, the CPI came out for the Bay Area. It's released every other month, and we're outpacing the nation with higher prices. Prices up now 8.9% year over year. That's higher than the U.S. average by 2%. The biggest driver besides energy, shelter. The shelter index increased 2.5% in the bi-monthly period. That was driven by rent prices. According to the report, rent is up 15.6% since last January. And those steep increases, as we know, have been driving people into homelessness all across the Bay Area. And tonight we're looking at a new program that's helping veterans and permanent housing, and find it too. Locally, we've learned Bay Pines has exceeded their goal, finding housing for 630 veterans. ABC Action News reporter J.J. Burton explains how they did it.
Michael Feaster is walking through the door of his new home.
The feeling now, oh boy, it's overwhelming.
And this is huge for him.
It's really a blessing.
He's 60 years old, a St. Pete native. He has a full-time job, and he's an American Marine veteran. But up until 2 months ago, he was homeless. In fact, the car he's standing next to, that's where he slept.
It was a very, very bad place for me, you know.
Even with his full-time job, he didn't make enough money to cover rent anywhere. He turned to Bay Pines VA healthcare system, even though he didn't want to.
If it wasn't for the VA, if it wasn't for my psychiatrist, my mental health provider, I don't know if I really don't know if I'd even be standing here, because it was a rough place I was in.
Michael is one of 630 local veterans Bay Pines was able to find housing for over the last year. It's part of the VA's nationwide effort to find permanent housing for 38,000 veterans.
And we want to end homelessness for our veterans.
Yvonne Morales and Lori Yireyatayem are with Bay Pines, and they work directly with local veterans.
We have a lot of people dealing with that. It's sad. It's not shocking. It's unfortunate.
And thanks to them and their team, Bay Pines exceeded their goal, helping 104.3% of local veterans. And nationwide, the VA decreased the number of homeless veterans by 55.3%.
It's definitely a motivator when we get someone housed, and we help them throughout that process.
It's also a motivator for people like Michael.
And my thanks goes out to the VA.
The VA is now working to reduce veteran homelessness by 25% by 2025. JJ Burton, ABC, Action News.